Hey guys, First Regardsman here, and today I'm going to be talking about Space Marine 2's patch 13, the suspected release date, the updated roadmap, and the future of the game, and even Space Marine 3. We'll also be talking about the voice pack DLC controversy resolution, new cosmetics in patch 13, alongside some new heroic weapon leaks, and info on the brand new weapon and equipment for the upcoming patch. The Tech Marine update has been out for almost 2 months now, which does mean we should be rapidly approaching the release of a public test server and full patch 13. Focus already said they were aiming for an April or May release date, but considering we are already in mid-April, it is highly unlikely that we're going to be getting anything beyond a public test server before May. Most Space Marine 2 patch releases usually follow a 2 to 3 month gap, with a public test server around a month prior to the official patch launch. We have no date on the public test server yet, however, or if we're even getting one for this patch. There is some interesting stuff going on behind the scenes for this game at the moment as well, because we are getting an updated roadmap later this month that is supposed to have some major changes to the current planned updates for Space Marine 2. Nobody was really expecting major siege changes before patch 15 with the new map originally, but patch 13 will be including a ton of changes to not just siege mode, but also character customization. And if you want to see all of that, I will be covering it on this channel as usual. The Warhammer Skulls event is also rapidly approaching. This is the biggest Warhammer video game event where they reveal some of the most major upcoming games and content drops for existing titles. Last year, Warhammer Skulls gave us a glimpse of Space Marine 2 siege mode prior to its official release, so this year we will probably see some huge reveals on patch 14 and beyond. Not to mention major upcoming titles like Total War Warhammer 40k, Dawn of War 4, and potentially even Space Marine 3. Though Space Marine 3 is far less likely as it's on a 4-year dev cycle and will not be releasing until like 2029 at the earliest, so it's probably a little too early to see major info on that. When it comes to content in patch 13, however, I'm going to talk a bit further about the 3 new heroic weapons coming in this patch, and we actually know of 4 coming out in total, and a little bit of a hint on the heroic perk effects they have as well. The first one we know for sure is coming with patch 13 is a new heroic chainsword variant. This was in the March community update post a bit and has a pretty unique skin attached to it. It looks very much like a White Scars option. Now, we don't know what the heroic perk effect will be or even what defense type this is going to have, but the general expectation about these weapons is that we will be getting a block variant, since so far in Space Marine 2 there have been 0 instances of a heroic block weapon at all. I think that part of this is because block weapons are just hard to use for most players, since parrying stagger is easier to pull off fresh out of the box, and Saber didn't want their brand new lineup of heroic weapons launching with their anniversary update to be too difficult to use for a major portion of the new players in the game. But the big thing I want to mention here is that we have a leaked image of the heroic perk effect icon, which has a 3 on it, which could be indicating a triple block adrenaline surge charge up option. If you're unaware of what an adrenaline surge charge even is, this is a unique mechanic for block weapons, lets you store charges for bonus melee damage on your next hit every perfect block up to a maximum of 2, and having an option to store a third could dramatically increase your weapon damage in total. Though I should mention this is actually how block weapons functioned upon their initial rework, and they lowered the maximum charges to 2, as most enemies don't actually have a 3 melee attack chain in the game. But I'm curious what you guys think of this, or if you even want a block chainsword variant at all. The chainsword has kind of fallen off a bit compared to other melee options like the power axe, so hopefully it does get a buff of some kind. And speaking of the power axe, one of the upcoming heroic weapons is a heroic power axe. This is one players have been asking for a while now. The power axe is one of the most entertaining weapons in Space Marine 2 currently, and also one of the only post-launch melee weapons added to the game. Every other melee weapon at this point already has a heroic variant, and in some cases like the combat knife, they actually have 2. So a heroic power axe is long overdue. As for what the hell this thing actually does though, I've mentioned many times previously that I personally want a frost axe. This already have slow effects like burn in the game, but the heroic perk icon that was data mined we have for this looks more like something related to your overhead attack. There are multiple lunging attack perks in the power axe tree already, and it's incorporated into its power backstep as well, so this would make sense as a perk effect. But if it's just something gimmicky like regenerating armor after a post, that would be pretty strong, but I would want something a bit more interesting. I'm sure most of Space Marine 2's community agrees. The next heroic weapon is a heroic plasma pistol. This is one I've talked about compared to the rate of fire relic variant before, because as it currently stands, the rate of fire plasma is just leagues above the other variants, but the image of the upcoming heroic perk effect actually looks to be related to either a cooldown or charge reduction. There are a lot of ways they could take this, but just based off the image, we might be getting something along the lines of ramping charge speed the more you spam your shots, or an instant cooldown. Depending on the base stats of the weapon, this could be really powerful to have something along those lines. We'll have to wait until the official patch, though I think they have done a pretty good job with the prior secondary weapons before, so my hopes are pretty high. The final weapon we know is getting a new heroic variant, though not necessarily in this patch, is the Thunderhammer. The Thunderhammer is a pretty top tier weapon for a lot of content in Space Marine 2 at the moment, so a new heroic option should be a great addition. It's also one of the most popular weapons, and even though its current heroic fencing variant that dispenses shock areas is one of the weaker heroics in the game, it is still a fan favorite as well, and the heroic perk effect image we have for this one looks related to either your ground slam or aftershock, and these are the two strongest attacks on the Thunderhammer currently anyways, so anything buffing these up would be a welcome perk effect. But I have to say that I'm really hoping this thing is a block weapon variant, because the Thunderhammer in particular really benefits from the staggering attacks of block charges for things like aftershock, and without these it can be prone to being interrupted by enemy attacks, especially on classes like Bulwark that don't have a jump pack dash to animation cancel. But that is pretty much everything we know about the heroics so far, but there's also a new equipment coming to patch 13. All we know is that this looks similar to a new injector. Some people think this will be for PvP, as there are currently injector voice lines found for the Heretic Astartes that are not available at all in the operations mode. Space Marine 1 did have a combat stimulant which could boost your damage, but we already have a Sanctified Wrath reliquary, so if this is a damage boost, it might be a bit redundant. But let me know what you guys want to see. Somebody told me this might be an attack speed increase or range damage buff, which could be a unique addition, but I'm curious what else you guys have come up with. But not only are we getting a new equipment, we're also getting a new weapon as well. Focus mentioned ages ago this would be a firearm, and we also have data mines I talked about a little bit before regarding a secondary automatic bolter SMG, which if anything like the Storm Bolter available in the Astartes overhaul mod, could be an incredible tool for both the Bulwark and Assault to rapidly recover their contested health. One of the biggest downsides of only having a secondary is that a lot of the best contested health recovery in the game comes from primary weapons. At the moment, the Plasma Pistol reigns supreme for CHP recovery on secondaries, and maybe this will shake things up. Personally, I want something more like a Grav Pistol though, since we just got the Tech Marine class in patch 12. I feel this would be a far more unique weapon than a new bolter, but Storm Bolters are very popular, so I wouldn't be too disappointed if that's what it winds up being. And speaking of the Tech Marine, this brings me to new cosmetics in patch 13. We are getting a brand new Iron Hands chapter pack that will include an Iron Hands champion skin. Chapter packs differ from the standard cosmetic and champion packs as they combine both the successor chapters with a champion skin as well. We haven't had one of these since year 1, and this will contain 4 chapters that we know for the Iron Hands with the Sons of Medusa, Brazen Claws, Red Talons, and Iron Lords. The champion skin was also previously leaked to have parts for the tactical as well, so you should be able to rep the Iron Hands on multiple classes as usual. Now we also had some images released previously during the March community post of new cosmetics coming independent of the chapter pack. We haven't had anything major for cosmetics added to the heroic store since like patch 11 in November of last year. There were leaks for not only a Victory Scarred Bulwark skin like we saw in Space Marine 2's campaign, but also the potential for a Heresy Black Templar helmet, which would probably go on multiple classes. I assume all of these new armor parts will be available in the heroic store for patch 13 or the ordeals section. Saber did say they're adding a brand new customization feature as well, which we have no idea what it will be about, or if this is somehow linked to the progression update in patch 13. I'm curious what you guys think the new customization feature will be, but on the note of other cosmetics, I want to talk a bit about the redacted champion pack that is also coming. Focus has mentioned that Deathwatch cosmetics are coming for ages in Space Marine 2. This has been a highly requested option in the game since launch, and that's not all that surprising since the campaign's opening mission is a Deathwatch kill team saying it's a Deathwatching time, then proceeding to watch their entire team die to a group of Hormagaunts and Termagants. Deathwatch cosmetics for Tech Marine are already confirmed to be getting an expansion in patch 13, but I also think that the redacted champion pack will be a Deathwatch pack. It just makes the most sense to me. Deathwatch are pretty much the Task Force 141 of Warhammer 40k, and definitely deserve a champion skin of their own. I've seen some speculation that this might be for Blood Ravens, with the outfit being hidden because of Dawn of War 4 not being fully revealed yet, or even Grey Knights, but as far as Grey Knights go, I don't think this is ever going to happen in Space Marine 2. Focus already said they don't plan on adding Psyker powers to the game, so Librarians are off the table for now, and every single Grey Knight is a Psyker on top of using more unique weaponry than you'd find with regular Primaris, so it really doesn't make a lot of sense to just give a regular ass Primaris an entire Grey Knight fit. But let me know what you guys think the redacted champion pack is going to be and what cosmetics you'd like to see the most. As far as other current events for Space Marine 2 are concerned, I also want to talk about the DLC voice pack controversy resolution. This was the biggest upset in the games community really since launch. The voice pack was already met with some serious backlash upon its announcement as being separate from the Season 2 pass, and when it released as a subpar quality DLC that had multiple voice lines intentionally reverting to their original lines in the middle of a mission, people were already prepared to be pissed. As someone who's been playing this game religiously since launch, I have never seen the community come out in pure disdain over anything in this game quite like the DLC voice pack. Focus kind of dug their heels in during the initial backlash and had some ridiculous takes like saying a DLC with all voices would cost like $20 to $25, which is close to or more than the price of some campaign game expansions in their entirety. Eventually, the backlash got so overwhelming that Focus and Saber caved. It came out with a gigantic apology saying they'd be giving refunds to everyone and making the DLC voice pack free content from now on. They further expanded upon this in the March community post, and the DLC is now officially delisted as purchasable content, and a lot of refunds have already been given out. Though if you've not received yours, they did say that different platforms will take different amounts of time, so give it a little bit. I am very curious to see how this controversy affects the next DLC voice pack. They already mentioned before if they plan to do more of these in the future, on top of there being data mines months ago for both White Scars and Raven Guard heads, but given the response to this one, I'm not even convinced I'll want to move forward with another voice pack at all. This was a pretty blatant attempt at nickel and diming Space Marine 2's player base, so I'm happy the community made its voice heard and just told Focus, no, we don't want $5 half-assed DLCs in the game. And this will probably have major implications for Space Marine 3 as well, because I have a sneaking suspicion that Space Marine 3 will have far more aggressive monetization. Saber was not planning on Space Marine 2 being as popular as it was. They had a huge influx of money thanks to this game, and even though Saber is usually working on other games, Space Marine 2 definitely became a priority for them, which is why the Year 2 roadmap was far more substantial than Year 1. But this could mean that the future monetization will be more consumer friendly than it would have been otherwise. Usually when it comes to these things, I always take the side of the consumer if a product is egregiously bad, but credit where credit is due to Saber. Making the entire pack free was pretty much the best possible resolution given the situation. This brings me to the final thing I want to talk about, which is regarding the overall future of Space Marine 2. There is a new roadmap in the works, like I mentioned previously, which will apparently have some pretty major changes. Patch 13 is already confirmed to be having some major siege mode reworks for shorter and more intense games, since the only real mentions of siege mode on the Year 2 roadmap previously were for patch 15 with a new map. I do wonder if you'll also be getting this new siege mode map early, because I don't think a siege mode rework is going to be remotely as good if we're stuck on the same map we've been on for nearly a year and then have to wait multiple extra months for a single new map. The remainder of the current roadmap looks a little bit lackluster compared to the first half of Year 2 in my opinion anyways, so I have a suspicion that we might be getting an extension or some of the stuff in the updated roadmap. I've talked previously about the potential for a Year 3 in Space Marine 2. We already know that every weapon in the game is supposed to get 2 heroic variants eventually, and there is simply no time for that on the remaining roadmap, especially for getting new weapons added as well. Recently, the parent company of Saber Interactive, Pull Up Entertainment, released their earnings report for 2025, and in the year of 2025, the major profit driver for their company was their backlog of games, spearheaded by Space Marine 2. And like I mentioned previously, Space Marine 3 is not expected to be released until 2029 at the earliest. And if you look at Saber's other games that are far less successful than Space Marine 2, like World War Z, that game is still receiving updates to this day. So even if we don't get a Year 3 roadmap for Space Marine 2, we're pretty much guaranteed to be getting more updates of some kind. Though considering that Year 2 has had more average players and much higher peaks than the majority of Year 1 did, and the game is now available on PSN Plus and Xbox Game Pass, I have a feeling that Saber is planning something major. Let me know if you think we're getting a Year 3 though. I have seen a shocking amount of people say this game is dead or we're not getting a Year 3, and I have no idea where we were getting this info from, because it's definitely not from the actual content release schedule for the game that is pretty much just strictly better than the Year 1 plan was, with more content and expansions to existing content that we saw originally. And the player base and content drops in Year 1 were still enough for Focus and Saber to greenlight an entire Year 2 plan, and Space Marine 2 just passed 12 million unique players as well, so the future of the game's content drop does seem pretty bright, and it also just makes financial sense for Focus and Saber to continue support. But that is pretty much everything I want to talk about in this video. Patch 13 is looking great already. We didn't even talk about the new boss that is coming as well, and there's probably even more we expect on the way as well, so tell me what you're excited to see most. I will be covering everything that's coming out with the new patch during the potential PTS and the official release. You can find that all on this channel as usual. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more. And if you want to catch me live to ask me questions about the game or just come hang out, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description, alongside a link to my community Discord. And as always, thank you for watching, take it easy, bye.